Tell us a little more about your chilling experience. I mean, Canada and Australia are culturally in many ways very alike. If it can happen in Canada, presumably it's coming here.
Oh, it's going to happen here. I think it's absolutely inevitable. It's not that big a move from where you're already at, and the fact that, well, the Qantas airline thing is a really good example. The fact that these things are happening and that corporations aren't standing up in outrage against the introduction of ideas like equity. It's like, you guys are all primed for this. Why not compelled speech? Especially if it's done for the best of all possible reasons. I was accused of denying the identities of the oppressed. It's like, well, to me, that wasn't the issue at all. The issue was, no, look, I'm not an advocate of hate speech laws for the reasons I already described. It's like, who's going to define hate? Not the people you want to define it. For sure, that's what's going to happen. That's bad enough. But then to say, well, I have to use the language of my detestable radical leftist foes, let's say, that's not happening. Yeah. So that's what I said when I made these videos.
Some of the most wonderful Australians I know are corporate leaders. And you know, they're generous, they're philanthropic, they're thoughtful, they're contributors to the public debate. But I'd have to say far too many of them seem, I'll use the expression, pig ignorant of the reality. They're playing with fire. They're playing with cultural forces that will destroy the very activities that they would hold up as being central to our wealth and prosperity.
Those cultural forces are playing with them. You know,
well, it's even worse.
Oh, yes.
So these astute people can't realise, don't see they're being toyed with.
They're being toyed with demonic forces in a sense. And again, I mean that in a psychological sense. Carl Jung said, people don't have ideas. Ideas have people. It's like, you think about that for about 5 years. You know, like if you take the typical student radical out of their demonstration and you have a chat with them one-on-one, you find out that, you know, they're the daughter of the guy down the street that you waved to, you know, while she was growing up. And that 80% of her is sensible person, you know, and 10% is resentful and 10% is ideologically possessed, partly because of the machinations of her idiot professors. And so she's okay. But if you get 10 of her together and each of them are 10% possessed, then you have the whole devil in the room, right? And that thing has a will. It has a historical will. And you better not be thinking you're running the show, especially if you're ignorant of the process. And the corporate types who are letting the radical left fifth column into their midst, and mostly through their human resources departments, which should probably just be shut down. They have no idea what they're messing with. They should watch what happens to Google.
I have to say, I've been pretty stunned by 2 or 3 of the senior chairmen in this country who've said to me or said to friends of mine in the context of recent politically correct debates here that they've been startled themselves by what their companies underneath of them have said, which raises some interesting questions about their need to get up to speed.
They're not startled enough. So I've seen, many people have sent me the sorts of training programs that the diversity consultants are foisting on the corporate world. I mean, it's as if a women's studies program has been placed in the midst of the corporate environment. It's not only the academic left, let's say, made manifest in a PowerPoint presentation. It's the worst elements of the activist academic left. The most appalling parts of the university are making themselves manifest in the corporate world at an amazing rate. And the corporations are guilty, partly because of inequality, I would say. They're guilty and they want to wallpaper over their bad conscience with some hand waving to the equality pushers. It's like, well, play with that at your peril. So it's a very bad idea. Diversity, inclusivity, equity, that's a bad game. You're going to be burned if you play it, and in ways you can't imagine. So Google already.
Freedom, fairness, respectful debate will take us a lot further.
That's right.
Responsibility.